Right, good afternoon, good evening. This is Katannya Alven speaking from the New Forest in Ringwood, in Hampshire, in England. And that's in the British Isles, which is made up of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Okay, well, this is very much about Brexit and what's going on, but I'm sure the American audience will be interested in as well. So let's have a look at this. This was a tweet or a text that was put out by Dominic Cummings, but whether that is correct or not. But it's really quite to the point. It says, any delay will in effect be negotiated between you, Parliament, and the courts. Everything to do with the duty of sincere cooperation will be in the toilet. We will focus on winning the election on a manifesto of immediately revoking the entire EU legal order without further talks, and then we will leave. Well, and it says underneath, text from number 10, source to The Spectator. Well, this is really very interesting. So just to remind you, this is Katannya Alven. Thank you everybody for your comments and being patient, waiting me to get my packing and sorting and getting down here. Relocation, I don't know for how long, but probably won't be for too long. And thank you for your likes and your shares. And so we'll play this.
In any EU nation that supports a delay to Brexit will be considered as hostile interference in the UK's domestic affairs. And if Brexit is delayed and Boris Johnson wins a majority at the next election, he will revoke every single EU law instantly and leave without any negotiations immediately, which seemed like it made Emily Makepeace soil her drawers in fear.
Now, you might recognise this. It's called, this is on the Nigel Farage show, We Got a Problem. I think that's the name of the channel. And a very clear-spoken guy, which the Nigel Farage show is using. So we'll carry on.
Newsnight's political editor on the show discussing Number 10's communications with The Spectator, which put the fear of God into Makepeace. So let's check it out.
By this source to James Forsyth, who is the political editor of The Spectator, and it begins by saying the negotiations will probably end this week. Now, we can look at some of the languages in these texts. So the first one we'll look at is looking at the view that Britain might take towards countries that are helpful towards the UK and those that are not so helpful. And this person on that says, we will make clear privately and publicly that countries which oppose delay will go to the front of the queue for future cooperation. Supporting delay will be seen by this government as hostile interference in domestic politics. And evidently this source is saying that the cooperation they're talking about is things like defence and security cooperation.
Well, it's good news from the start of that clip. Negotiations will be over by the end of the week, which, since this show was last night, information has now come out that the negotiations are actually over now because Merkel wants to keep Northern Ireland in the customs union forever, which is never going to fly. So Number 10 have come out and said that a Brexit deal is now impossible, not only now, but forever. There is no chance of ever getting a deal, which is good news because no Brexiteer, it seems, actually wanted a deal now if they ever did before.
Exactly. Great.
The pointless delays and backhanded tactics used by the EU and our own MPs aimed at blocking the democratic vote of the British people has pissed a lot of people off, including those who voted Remain. So now a lot of people just want a clean break and they want it done by the end of the month.
Okay, so just to remind people who the EU, or what the EU is, it's the centrepiece of the one world order. And as people who have had their eyes and their ears open and seeing what's been going on, we can say it's the one world satanic order that has been going on for a long while. So they're the bankers and some very top corporations. That's who the EU are, European Union, to actually start the one world government.
The best bit about this communication is when the government source states, we will make clear, publicly and privately, any country who opposes delay will go to the front of the queue when it comes to future cooperation. Anyone supporting a delay will be seen by this government as hostile interference in domestic politics, sending them to the back of the queue where they would deserve to be. It's about time Boris Johnson and his team started playing hardball with the EU and Parliament. This is how you negotiate when you're facing a hostile takeover, which, make no mistake, that is what we are facing now. Theresa May never had the will or required testicles to even consider using the bog standard tactics used when dealing with hostile opponents, like the unelected EU and these shitweasels in Parliament. This is something the UK should have said from day one. Any nation or entity seen to be working against the British people's vote will be considered a hostile force and treated as such.
So why didn't they? My thinking is because the government that May came out of, in other words, David Cameron government, were part of the remaining, i.e. they were doing the dirty work or the deeds of the banking or the globalists, the one world order. They were working for them. So when they actually dared to put a referendum on the table, and then they got 17.4 million people voting to leave, it was a goodly majority. So the Remainers, whose thinking is not democratic, think on that. The Remainers' thinking is not democratic, and that comes, in my opinion, from the schooling over the last decades that has been indoctrination. So we've got a whole swathe of young people who don't understand what democracy is. So they think they can shout and scream and kick and do what they like to get their own way. Now, I've moved on a little bit.
Parliament and the courts. Everything to do with duty of sincere cooperation, this is that you have to behave if you remain a member of the EU, will be in the toilet. We will focus on winning the election on a manifesto of immediately revoking the entire legal order without further talks, and then we will leave.
Gosh, Nick, thanks very much indeed.
There, the government are saying there might not be a way out of the Ben Act, which is of course possible. But I'm inclined to believe this is just a diversionary trick aimed at throwing the Ramonas off the scent should the government have a way to get out of the Ben Act via either EU law that states we leave on Halloween, the Civil Contingencies Act, or by some other means they are keeping close to the chest.
Now, here I've got Jeff Taylor's videos up, and it's this one, Boris Johnson to use second letter to avoid Brexit. Okay, listen, here we are, we'll bring this up.
It seems there are plans for the Prime Minister to use a second letter to the EU Council to get round the Ben Surrender Act.
Ho, ho, ho!
In news that seems to have lit the Remainer blue touch paper, the Business Secretary Andrea Leadsom yesterday told ITV's Peston programme that it was absolutely reasonable for the Prime Minister Boris Johnson to follow up the Ben Surrender Act Article 50 extension request letter with another one cancelling it.
That is just wonderful. Now the other thing that's going on, this is a no deal Brexit. Let's listen to Gove, and he's talking to and rips into Labour's Starmer. Just come in here.
In the integrity of the single market, but is he serious about maintaining the integrity of the United Kingdom? Because he and his party are more than willing to see a customs border erected in the Irish Sea. We would be the only sovereign nation in the world with such a customs border, but he is more than prepared to dance to the EU's tune rather than standing up for the UK.
That's an important thing. In the UK Parliament, but actually kowtowing and dancing to the tune of the EU. These bankers and these globalists, that's, you've got to get over just the term European Union. It is the globalists and the one world order, that's that central core, the corporations and the bankers that actually are basically the EU.
And that is, of course, the spirit in which the Ben Act was passed. It is the case that the Ben Act signals to the EU that there are people in this Parliament who do not want to conclude a deal, who do not want to leave by October the 31st, who want to delay.
Right, and are they being bribed? Are they actually taking bribes from people in EU high places behind the curtains? They're not just doing it for fun.
Indeed, the right honourable gentleman is one of those, because he's had every opportunity to engage meaningfully with government, not just on the deal, but on no-deal preparations as well. When I last spoke to this House, on the 25th of last month, and he referred to my statement then, I invited any MP in this House to come to the Cabinet Office and Deputy to discuss a deal and our no-deal preparations. Only one opposition MP, the member for Leicester West, accepted that invitation. That is and indeed the Right Honourable Lady, the member for North Down, 2 opposition MPs. That is a measure of the seriousness with which...
Only 2 people followed up his invitation to look at what they were discussing with a deal or a no deal. And only 2 people on the other side of the House deigned to go. And yet they're kicking and screaming about what's going on. The moral standard in the British Isles has plummeted over quite a number of decades. And I think that is due to the indoctrination, not schooling, not education in the Pythagorean way, but the indoctrination. And that is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. So with that, there's lots more I want to share with you, but we better make another one on this subject. Well, it's ongoing, isn't it? But I think that actually with that information that I shared, the text message, that wasn't all of it. Do watch each of these videos. Do like and share their videos as well. I'm full of admiration for all that they do. So once again, this is Katannya Alven from the New Forest on the southern coast. And it's pouring with rain and lots of blustery wind, with the oak trees outside swaying, well, dancing in a very dramatic way. God bless you all. The light is winning. The good guys are winning. Okay, we are winning, but we've got to speak up. God bless. Katannya Alven, signing out.